Yes, it's live.
Hold on. Okay, here we go. I mean, it's live now.
Yes.
Paperboy, can you say a few words before we start, just to make sure that you can see us?
Paper, yeah, it's our time. I'm so excited. This is gonna be awesome. Number 2, it's only getting better as we go along. So happy to
And
be here.
I have Badrun on the call as well.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to you for having me. And it was great to see you again, Paperboy.
Great to see you as well. Getting my
So
chain here.
yes, we're still working the kinks here with the technology. So hey, hi Paperboy, hi Badrun. I can see you all. I think I can. Let me check if Doug can hear us. Doug, can you hear us? Just making sure that they can. Doug, can you hear us? No, he cannot hear us. So that means, let me double check. Hold on. He can hear us now. Now he can. Good.
Okay,
So
good.
hi Badrun, hi Paperboy. Well, this is the second Zoom with Paperboy hosted by El Chino. I am El Chino, Paperboy in front of us. Hi.
Hi.
We are here. This is the second episode. So we're going to talk about the mechanics of the politics in New York City, on what it takes to go from a person to an elected official, and what it takes to go through every step. So this program is about the mechanics of politics, not the policy of politics, not the policy of the candidate, but the mechanics. So to get on the ballot, one needs to petition in New York City. One needs to go and say, I need to get the permission of the people to get on the ballot. That process is very convoluted, is very complicated, and is very simple at the same time. And Badrun Khan, who's with us today, and Paperboy both started at the same place. They didn't know how it worked, and they had to learn it. Sometimes the easy way, sometimes the hard way. So here is a conversation where Paperboy and Badrun are going to compare what they have done, what they did, and what is different. And because both of them got on the ballot in New York City, both went through hell, both got a lot of signature in Queens, in the Bronx, and in Brooklyn, in Manhattan as well. Paperboy got in with 86 signature, and Badrun with more than 1,400. Something is wrong with the system. It shouldn't be that way. But here we are. So Paperboy, take it away. Badrun, sorry, first you take it away. Tell us the story on how you started, how you learn about petitioning. Who did you contact if you want to? How did you contact, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, let's see. It's Ramadan right now. I know for everybody, Ramadan Mubarak. It was about a year ago this month that I decided to do this congressional 14 election. So from that, now it's not a year, and it's been a hardship. It's been a struggle, but I was capable to get on the ballot. So let's talk about the fundraising. And it was a very hard issue when you're a new candidate. Especially I funded from my community. I did the best I can. That's the first step of getting into these elections. How many people you know, how many funds you could create, what's the amount of funds, and then slowly you do your website, you do your pamphlets, you put your policies on. Every day you create policies. You start small, then eventually you get in big. That's how I did it, and my team who worked with me did it. But it's so when you're running against someone, or I'm sure Paperboy has it too, who's been in the seat for a while, or myself who's in the seat, it's something you have to create your identity. You have to create who you are. What are your aspects, and how you're going to get to that point. So the first several months was about putting all of that together. And then I call it the most painful petition process. It was a painful process. What I learned, like I hired a group of people the first couple of days, and I felt like it wasn't working. Because I know people will check your signatures if they're accurate or not. And it was just not, when I was looking through the signatures at night, it wasn't. And I have to say thank you to Rep My Block, who actually helped me a lot. I have to say that, because then what happened is I kind of took it over myself, and my family took it over, how to get these signatures. And what I did, the people in my family who are long distance cousins or maybe a friend of a friend, I went on Rep on My Block, checked them if they're actually a registered voter, make sure they have their name and their address, everything matches. So they went with me to get signatures. And I actually didn't do much in the train station because I felt this train station wasn't working for me. So what I did is I printed the list. So I printed a list in the Bronx, and I printed a list in Queens. So for example, I know a block in Bronx pretty well. I printed that list, and each buildings with the name of person I knocked in every door and got signature that was accurate based on the voter list.
And that was after you had the Rep My Block. You started working with Rep My Block.
Yeah, that's when I did the Rep My Block. So I print out Rep My Block. Okay. Am I skipping too quick? Theo, tell me if I'm going too fast.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump into Rep My Block because Rep My Block is not really what the purpose here yet is. It's more to explain from the period before you said, I decided to run for office.
Correct.
What do I need to do? And suddenly you discover this petitioning process that you didn't know, or you knew, or I don't know. That's the piece that is the segment for today. It's from the moment you decide, I'm the citizen, what do I need to get on the ballot? And you discover there is the petitioning process. What goes through your mind when you're doing that? How do do you take a phone book and say, petition expert, in the yellow page, and say, this is how I petition?
Well, we did have, let's say, a group of people, I told you, a person we hired, and he was going to help us like hire people and have these petitions done. But unfortunately, what happened, the people who we were hired, the people who are going door to door, wasn't effective. It wasn't what I thought it was supposed to be.
But how did you find them? I mean, you find them in a phone book, you find them?
That person, I actually, someone actually gave me their contact during the whole, So we got connected.
Also through personal connection, it was more personal connection, more than, because Paperboy had a kind of a similar situation, but I'll let you go for it.
Theo, we can't hear you, you're buzzing off.
Yeah, your mic is shortening a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get it fixed then.
While you're fixing that, I'll mention my experience in, I also I guess I would say a year and a half ago, decided that I was gonna run for Congress in Brooklyn. And, I actually knew that I wanted to run, but I knew that the fundraising and all of these barriers to entry are kind of what makes it hardest. So researched many local offices. I researched many local politicians and how they got through and all of these things. And I learned about the matching funds in the city of New York for those offices, which, you don't have for the federal offices, but that's very appealing. And I saw that, and, but still I saw that Congress is where I could make the most impact, and also where I felt I had the best shot at actually winning. And, I looked on YouTube for a bunch of videos to see, okay, is there any resources about running for office where I can see? I went to the library, tried to find books, and there was nothing that really took us, you know what I mean? That took you here to 2020 to 2019 to the current times, and kind of what it takes and what you need and all of that. So I went and I talked to all of my friends who were politically involved that I knew from college, that I had worked with, some that are in campaigns, some that already are in offices in other states. And I talked to them. And, you know, one thing that I noticed very quickly is a lot of my friends were open to talking to me about it, but many of the friends I had that were already in office weren't very open.
Helpful? Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't helpful. It was it's very every man or woman or person for themselves
Correct.
kind of vibe, and that becomes super. That makes it hard. You know, it can be discouraging, but this is a process that's an uphill battle. And so finally, I did a bunch of research on the 2018 congressional elections here in New York, and I saw certain people who had good runs, and I looked at their consulting groups that they use, and I said, oh, okay, it seems like this is the way that, you know, you get out there. You have some type of consulting group, or you have some type of backing, some powers that be that are kind of helping you there. And I saw that my first goal was saying, okay, I know getting on the ballot is the first main step. That's the thing that matters, that actually has you in the game. And I'm a street performer, so I knew, okay, I'm always in the streets. A lot of people know me from being in the streets, in the community, seeing me. And I know that thousands of people are walking by when I'm performing. So if I can easily get 1,500 signatures, if I use the people that are in the street to come get their neighbors and get the word out to registered voters. And of course, the process is so much more complicated than that. It's very mathematical. So yeah, for me, signing up to run, that was kind of my first part. And then I did get a chance to meet with I called a bunch of, first I actually called the Green Party and I was going to run on the Green Party because there's so many issues I had with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and I didn't know how accepting they would be of me as an outsider, and with, you know, less traditional experience. And the Green Party actually in Brooklyn wasn't very receptive either. They didn't, we had a few phone calls, they didn't want to meet with me, and it's all love to them. So then I finally had a chance to meet with some consultants, and you know, they were open to it. I don't think they really saw the vision. I think they only saw it from their way. And when I spoke with them, and you can let me know, Badrun, your kind of experience, but when I spoke with them, they gave me an itemized list of what they would do for me and what's kind of the cost of that would be. And a lot of that was throwing events, and then it was, you know, advertising help, and then social media. And I was like, wait, I throw events for my job. That's what I do. So I'm probably better suited to do that than you all. And then it was like social media. I was like, wait, I'm already on social media. So it was hard to see where the help would be, you know, especially for the amount of money it was. So my question to you is, when you first kind of got that first help, and you said before you switched to doing it yourself, Rep My Block, and with your family, what kind of was the selling point to you that, you know, the different groups that you reached out to had that made you say, okay, I want to work with you?
Actually, it wasn't a group. It's a good friend of mine who, it was a good friend of mine who actually just gave me some simple strategic planning. I haven't paid them that so much in that, but the actual person who were hired was for the petitions. That's where basically I had to do, that's where the bulk of it went. But from the beginning, I had a fairly a good group of people who I actually did my own social media. So it wasn't a package, or however you want to call it. I did my social media. I have my people, my social media. I had who built my website, because I feel like if I did it with the person I knew, and I had a very good friend of my brother's who actually did the website. I don't know if you ever saw the website. It was really wonderfully done.
Awesome.
Like I went in and did like pictures, like in a home when we went outside, and it was, I was very hands-on in my election. I have to say, I was very hands-on, even with the fundraising. I did it myself. I actually contacted the community. The group who I helped through my friend, they pushed me inward, but being I'm not a big finance and I don't have a lot of funding, they were very good to me, and they helped me in that sense. But the petition was a separate. They don't do petitions. And the petition is where I actually had a lot of trouble.
So how did you find that person? And then when did that start? Like what?
Okay, so that person wasn't through anybody. It was through someone I knew, and it wasn't through that group. It was someone totally who did it. There were two complications with that one. I think the first complication was when we got them to do the petition, the coronavirus hit pretty bad. You know that. I'm sure you saw that, right?
Yeah.
So me and you had the same problem. So the people who did want to work, we come in, say about 6, 7, 8 of them came in, they weren't qualified. I felt they couldn't understand, and it was not. So it was for him. I know he has done it many times, but I think it didn't work the way I wanted it. I'm very, as I said, I don't want to present myself when my people go out to get signature. It's me that they're representing. And I felt it wasn't working. It was just not, and enough signatures weren't coming in. And my daughter, who's 18, and like at night, we got those sheets, and my daughter was like, "Mom, this is not working." I'm like, "I know."
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a 14-year-old too, so we would sit and just check. And then I have my mother and my uncle, so they all would check. But also during that time, people would call, but they don't want to work also. So I would call people to work and actually would even pay them. But unfortunately, I can't take that responsibility of them getting sick. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was such a hard decision for me. So then what I did is I went like a different aspect. I couldn't keep those people because they didn't do what I want them to do. That was the hard part. And if you see the petitions and when you see the signatures, you know how accurate you have to be, the names, the address have to be, the date has to be, people will not get the dates. So one day I went to the train station in Jackson Heights, which is my big hub. I got one female to sign, because I know why she signed, because she would support me. I know that she was looking for another candidate. She signed it, and she did it very nicely, and it was legible. The other 4 is like you're pushing, you're shoving, and if I was looking at those signatures, all 5 of them would have been thrown out. Like it would have been all. So then I took a different tactic to do it. It was about 7 of us who did everything. I mean, there was a little less than 1,400, maybe at 12. I did 290 pages or 285 pages, or whatever it is, give or take. So I did. So what you said is, I think the petitioning is a very difficult thing. I don't know what happened 20 years ago. People don't want to open the door. People ask me, why you want my address? And then I would have the list. I'm like, look, I have your address. She's like, well, I'm not writing my address. And I'm like, look, this is the address. But, and some buildings that my daughter went to, a building on Greenpoint, Sunnyside, this woman actually took her and she's like, I'm going to teach you how to do it. And she walked all over the building with her. That was so nice.
Wow.
She's like, everybody's Republican. I mean, so everybody's Democrat here. I'm Republican, but everybody's Democrat here. And I'll tell you who to knock. She made her knock to the entire building and got all those signatures. She's like, just sign it. And she trained her so well. That was amazing.
Wow.
But I know you had your struggles. I had my struggles, but the easiest way is take a list and knock on people's door. That's what I did afterwards.
So I'm curious at what point, because it's one of those things of
4 days later. Exactly. 4 days later, I said, okay, this is not working. Exactly.
4 days from the beginning of petitioning.
Yes, the first day to the 4th day, my husband he went to my house, and my mother, me, and my uncle, my father's, we take care of my father's brother. So he was like, it's not working. And then we got the ideology of printing papers and giving to the mosque. You know, we have a big mosque in the community.
Right.
And we printed the petitions, and we put it to the mosque, and we started going to the mosque every Saturday and Sunday. And you know, people who go to the mosque is actually from that neighborhood.
Right.
It's around so it's that block. So I went to the Bronx. So one day I went to the Bronx. My husband went to the mosque. About one Saturday, it was me and my daughter who went to another mosque. And we split that with whatever weeks we had on a Friday. And the other thing we did is we also did, we went door to door. So it was we took it over. So my husband, my daughter, my mom, we kind of took it over. I had cousins who knew people, and it was like a family, like anybody we knew who were registered and we could check right away, got them signatures.
So I'm curious about challenges, because, you know, my first time petitioning was in January. I petitioned as a delegate for Andrew Yang to get Yang on the ballot. And that was kind of one, I wanted Yang to be on the ballot in New York, but two, that was kind of our practice for actually, you know, petitioning for Congress. And one thing that I noticed is, you know, when I went up to people in the train stations, because at that point I wasn't going door to door, we were just doing train stations, and like on the street. And one thing I noticed when I said my line, it was like, hey, we're trying to get Andrew Yang on the ballot. Do you have a moment to sign the petition, or something like that? Most people, even if they were Yang supporters, they didn't want to sign. They were like, oh, I don't want to sign. Like, you know, even people who were like, oh yeah, I like Yang, but I'm not going to sign. And then we had the issue of, you know, a lot of people who they just didn't understand the process. Like you said, they didn't want to put their address. They didn't, oh, what am I signing? Oh, are you going to use this against me? Right, exactly.
Send me mail. Are you gonna send me all these mails if it's gonna harm me? Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So my question is, you said your family helped a lot. How was it for them petitioning for you without you there? Because I know that's one of the hard parts. You know, it's easier with the candidate. You're kind of the mascot. It's like, okay, hey, it's me. Help me get on the ballot. But when it's somebody else who's not there with you, you know, like you mentioned, your daughter going to that building, how hard was it for them to do that?
So what my daughter did, I remember, she went in. So I never sent her alone. She had her group of friends with her. Like we never sent anyone alone in the building. So we actually took. There were always three of them, or there was always two of them, just for security safe and to be safe. That's also another issue that I felt uncomfortable with.
Right.
So because you never know who's building. I mean, you never know that becomes, because when we noticed like the train station, the streets weren't working. So what we did is when she went, she had a pamphlet of mine.
Okay.
And she knocked on the door, and she had to explain all, like, a couple of my policies. Some people would just sign, and some people would say, so is a candidate ever going to come in? So when it's a bigger building, so I would go in one side of the building, and they would go with one side of the building. So that's how we did it. So let's say if there was 8 apartments in the building, I did one side, they did one side. If someone said, can you have the candidate come back here? She kind of will text me, can you just walk by here? So we kind of did, we mixed the buildings together, and it was hard. Some people liked the pictures and couldn't understand, but also then the problem is the pamphlets were in English, not in Spanish, not in Bengali, not in Urdu. It was complicated, but they managed by talking. Like, you just have to get the people engaged with you. And we kind of listed like some of the community members we knew, the buildings we targeted. And with coronavirus, because I'm a former president of an organization, so most people knew who I was anyway. So we kind of targeted that so we could get the signature. If I knock on the door, oh, my name is I'm running Badrun Khan, people know my name, and sometimes they will open the door. So we kind of targeted a group of people. It was basically targeting the buildings. And as for my mother, she is 68. What she did is she went to people she knew from the neighborhood. And my uncle, who also did the same thing, they went to people they knew and they were registered voters.
Okay.
And then they checked with the list I would give them. And that's how they directed how we kind of worked together. It was kind of like, we didn't get the same signature twice. They did, let's say, Woodside or Sunnyside, and I would do Greenpoint of Sunnyside, or I would do 39th Street, 38th Street. So it was, I'm a financial controller, so I mathematically did most of the way we did it.
So speaking of mathematics, as far as when you're at the door knocking, because this was actually, for me, one of my most nervous parts, because I'm very comfortable talking with people. I'm very comfortable going up to people, but it's something super intimate about being in someone's building at their door. You know, back in the day, it's almost like back in the day, they had an advantage because it was so normal just to ring somebody's doorbell, knock on their door, because you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have all these things. Now, it's almost like, wait, if you didn't call me before, if you didn't text me, who is this at my door, right? So for as far as specific strategy, just going to the door, how much would you knock? And then once you actually got in contact with a person, how much time did you spend with the person? Because, you know, some people, they want to talk to you all day before they sign. They might want to spend 30 minutes talking to you before they sign. Other people, like you said, as soon as you say, what do you need? They might be on the phone. What do you need? Okay, sure, I'll sign. And then they'll just go. So how long would you spend with people? How short? And then as far as knocking, like, are you knocking 3 times, 4 times? Are you just knocking and then going? Like, so let me know what your process
So
was.
what I did, so let's say like in the Bronx. So Bronx had like buildings that are pretty much 8 to them. So we would stop at the top floor. So let's say they were the 12. And then I would go through a list of an Excel sheet. Okay, so this one has 6 voters. This one has 3 voters. This one has 2 voters. So our group will split and everybody will knock. We used to knock twice, but not knock or ring, right? Twice. We would wait and twice. So let's say someone opens the door. And then we would first, when they would come in and we would speak a little loud to know that it was Badrun Khan at your door. I'm running for Congress and I'm going around the district. But also remember, we always did a female and a male. So everybody was there, because sometimes it's easier for a female to open the door. When it's a male, people.
So that was actually going to be my next question. That was going to be my next question, because yeah, exactly. From my experience, you know, just being a male in the evening, and you know, daylight saving time didn't hit till, I want to say, midway through petitioning,
Yes.
which ended up being the end of petitioning. Like,
we didn't do, yeah.
Right. So there was, you know, for me, I'm non-binary, but being a Black man at somebody's door, some people super welcoming. Other people, you know, I could hear them scared, breathing on the other side of the door, and I'm like, oh no, I'm just trying to do democracy. I'm not here to hurt you. So that's very good that so you knew that even before you had the man and the woman, or was midway through?
Yeah, we kind of knew that before, because my husband is 6 foot tall. So he's also brown. So if you would knock on the door, we felt like nobody was going to open it. We kind of knew that. It's just, it was a given to us. But what we did is we always went as a group. So when they peeped through the hole, they didn't see one person, they saw about 2 or 3 people. So I think that made people comfortable opening the door. Even one time we went, I had my staff, it was 3 females who went. But we went to a neighborhood that with one of my staff members knew that neighborhood. So we did that. So when someone actually looked at us, they saw a group of people. So that made it, we were trying to make it comfortable for people to open the door. And that made it easier, because when they saw 2 people, when they saw a female first and then they saw someone else, they're like, okay, there's 2 people. But we used to get, what do you want? Why are you knocking on my door? How dare you knock on my, we got all that stuff. And we were explaining that this is petitions, this is the way we do it. And it worked, because as I said, I targeted people. So in the building, I knew how many signatures. One person, we went in, they had 6 voters in their apartment.
Wow.
3 of them signed. And I said, sir, if you don't mind, the 3 inside, they are registered voter. I just want to get it. It's like, you don't need to vote for me. I just want to get on the ballot. And it's like, okay, fine. So he came in, all 3 of them came out. They all signed, we have to witness it. They can't
Right.
it's a lot. You can't, if they could you can't let them take the paperwork. They're like, oh, give it to me. I'm like, no, you can't do that. So they would come in. And you said the timing, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. They wouldn't put the date. So I'm like, can you please put the date? It was a lot of restriction. So I would say sometimes about 5 to 10 minutes. And a daily basis, I think if we did the math right, by buildings, we would get about 45 signatures.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
and how long were you spending in that building then to get the 45? Because I started getting down to the science of signatures per hour of like, okay, if I can get, like you said, 20 in an hour, 40 in an hour, we're doing good. If it's taking me an hour to get 6, that's not that.
But I think about 3 hours. You know why? Not 3 hours, because we split in 3 groups. So depending on what it is, I remember the last day of petition. Well, let me go back to the Bronx. The Bronx, I think, wow, that was a big day for us because we got 100 signatures in one day. We did really well in the Bronx, very
Awesome.
well. Yeah, and then we did very good in Greenpoint, Sunnyside. So maybe 45 signatures, I think about 2 hours, give or take, or a little bit more, depending on the people, how many people in the building, because I didn't go, because if you have to understand, Bronx works very differently. It's like McGraw Avenue has building after building. So we hit like 10 buildings at the same time. And then we found some people in the building who we knew. They're like, oh, let me take you to this apartment. They have more signatures. So it was any building I went to, oh my God, you're here for signature? Don't worry, let me take you to this apartment. This has 10 signatures, this has 6 signatures. And it kind of worked that way.
So speaking of the buildings, I'm curious as to, because I spend less time in the Bronx, as to what types of buildings, because each building has its own type of culture and own type of resident that's there. And then the kind of their interaction with you will follow. I know, like, for example, a NYCHA building versus a brand new gentrified building. It's two different processes, even first getting in the building, right? Like some of these big, like Dumbo, a part of Dumbo is like a part of my district, and that we kind of started petitioning there. And some of these buildings, just to get in, you have to like buzz all of the thing. They have this super high tech, buzzer system. And then some of the NYCHA buildings, I'm buzzing, trying to be polite, and people are like, oh, bro, that buzzer hasn't worked 15 years, man.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? And you got to go in and knock. So what was your experience? I want to know the types of variety of buildings you went to. Like I mentioned, from the spectrum of, gentrified, super expensive, hot building to, the other side of that.
Okay,
what was kind of, what was the main types you go in and the variety?
So I talked about the Bronx because it was building after. Let's talk about Jackson Heights. Jackson Heights, these buildings are beautiful, gorgeous buildings, right? So what I used to do is when someone used to buzz, I used to walk in with them. And then I used to get the supers like, Ms. Khan, you can't be in here. We're going to throw you up. But you know what? We used to get some signatures from there. But yes, we had that difficulties in Jackson Heights. That's more the beautiful, the gorgeous, more expensive buildings are. People didn't want to open, didn't want to. So I kind of, it's hard what we did, because in Sunnyside, there's the buildings that I went to, that I knew the buildings. People knew me in that building. I went to the buildings I knew. And then I went to, I think it was Lefferts City, that I had a couple of people go in there and they knocked. I had like other people who could go in there and get me some signatures. So we kind of all split whatever we were able to do. Then we went to private houses. So Woodside was the Woodside buildings. When I did my list, I did it through Excel. So what I did is I targeted bigger buildings because the bigger buildings had more signatures.
Right.
And then I did small buildings. So I had one of my daughter's friend, I tell him, okay, you handle Woodside, with Anissa and my niece, and these are the buildings. So he said to me, why don't I just, you don't worry about these buildings, because I kind of know that building. He lives in Jackson Heights. So he targeted Jackson Heights and Woodside. So everything was set. So I did mixtures of buildings. So it's hard to say. I don't think I didn't have, because I thought the next category was to go to Pelham Parkway, which I already got some signatures from them, and to the low income versus the higher income, I kind of have mixed. Like I just like targeted, my target was to get 5,000 signatures. So I said the first week, if I got 14, and by that time I got the signatures, we were everyone was getting good at it. But right. Also with the corona of COVID-19 was becoming very difficult. People didn't want to open the door. My daughter is like, Mom, you have to make sure, because I was out the most. And we have to be very careful. And these buildings, I know what you said with the buildings, people don't want to open the door, or people say, what type of buildings? I went to every type of building. That's what I said. I targeted people I knew, or the community members I knew, someone who can link me to these buildings.
Okay, that's great, because I had an experience, with certain buildings that, like you mentioned, there's doormen there or a door person there that is like, won't let you do that. I mean, their job is to stop like solicitors, and, we're not soliciting, but then at the same time we are, because we're like, going door to door. And so that makes it, to me, it makes it really tough. The fact that there are big buildings makes it easy, because you just get to hit a bunch of doors at once, versus I talk to people in other states that are petitioning, and they might have a half a mile between each house, to, you know what I mean? To go from house to house. In New York, we're kind of lucky. We can just hit a bunch at once like that. My next question I had,
just
though,
to tell you what, before we go, Pete, you know what I did? I also try to contact the super first. I would go in and I would tell the super, listen, I'm running. Can you help me? The buildings, I understand I'm not. So I tried every tactic in the book. And one of the super was laughing. He's like, I can't believe you came up to my door. But that was the only way, because these buildings were the easiest way to get signature. But also, also we struggle with, some people moved.
Right.
They moved there. I'm sure you got that, right? People
yeah.
Anymore. Some people rent those apartments. So those are the ones. I know you have another question, but that's the way we did it.
No, yeah, that was a big obstacle, especially in my district. There's so much gentrification that, there were certain buildings I went to. In fact, the building that I'm registered in, almost no one that lives there is registered in those buildings. So that was super tough, the registered voter. In a lot of the buildings I went to, no one was there. And these are buildings I knew a lot of people in, but it's so many people that are like not living there. But this question is kind of a personal question. A big part of this whole process is just you, and selling you, and just as you are, first impression. So for you going up to people cold in the street and coming up to their house, I know you said a lot of the buildings, people already knew you. You kind of targeted ones where people were familiar with you from your work you already done in the community. But for those who weren't, and that just were just like people who'd never heard of you, just first seeing you, what do you think they were perceived you as? Like, how much was it hard? Did you feel like, because your background, or because you're a woman, or because your height, or because your look? Like, how do you feel like people received you and receptive to you? And then how did that affect their willingness to sign your petition or want to volunteer or even vote for you?
Let's see, I do get a lot of volunteers. So let's say in my neighborhood, it's a different type of neighborhood. But let me skip my neighborhood. Let me go into, say, Corona, for example. That's a different type of neighborhood.
Corona, Queens. For those who think
Corona, Queens, I'm sorry. What I did is I went to people and I gave them, so before the petition, I had a person with me who actually speaks Spanish. So I would go to them, and because I would say hello and I would talk to them, and they would listen, like somebody's talking to us. But then I would have my person with me who knew how to speak Spanish. We kind of corner them and talk to them. And I was trying to engage personally. That's what I tried. That was and I didn't go into the Congress and the election right away. And I'm like, hello, I'm Badrun Khan. Do you have a minute to speak to me? And they were just like, no. And then like, oh, I don't speak English, or I don't know Spanish. So then my person who was with me, we got into a conversation. So, or I would go to a fruit stand. And, when you were at the fruit stand, there were a couple of people there. Right. I remember we had a big incident in the fruit stand, and everybody was like communicating with me. I had my pamphlets and talking in English and Spanish. I just think you have to preserve and go up to them and let them see you for a second. Some people walked away, some people shrugged, but some people like, no, I don't want,
My specific question though is like, what do you think they thought of you? You know what I mean? Because because I'm not you, so I don't know. And I'm curious because I know how I felt certain people thought of me, and I know it's different. But going out there and people seeing you for as you are, what do you like? Were they like, oh, I'm happy to see you, or they're like, kind of standoffish? I'm just curious.
It's depending on who it is. Yeah. So just what people thought of me. Sometimes the people who knew who I'm running against, it was like, oh my God, that's impossible. Or, oh my God, that's a difficult thing. So I got a lot of assumption. One person said, you know what, it's democracy, you need to run. It's great. Some people say, oh no, I like, it's impossible. Like and some people, you're courageous. Some people thought I was crazy. I got all of these positive and negative aspect. Whoever is politically involved, I felt like they're like, you know what, this is democracy. Everybody should get an election in every seat. Someone said, oh, wow, you're running against this person. Congratulations, good luck. So I also felt people who spoke to me or gave me the 5 minute or 2 minutes, they were more concerned with who I am and what I do. Like, am I a born politician, or I was born? I'm like, look, no, I have leadership experience, but no, I don't have family in politics. I'm actually from the district. And then even in my Twitter, people actually ask me, where am I from? So am I in the district? So I got positive and negative reactions. And the other positive, people felt like I was like I'm a mother of two, so I know I have the experience of college tuition. I have experience of raising kids. I have a lot more experience, I think they felt like. And some people was like, oh, it's good. We need other people to come out of the community. And that's what I felt like. But some of them are like really hardship, like maybe terrible comments. You get all that, but you know what? You have to pull yourself. If you listen to someone and you come back home and that mentally drains you, I also got, you're a woman. I also got, your woman should be home. I got that. But you should be taking care of your kids at home. The worst part I think I got, one person said is, did your husband agree that you're running?
Wow.
So I got a lot of different. Some people are like, congratulations, you should do it, and you're brown. I'm sure you know that.
Right. That's.
You know what the thing is? It's just I'm still brown. Where are you from? And when I couldn't speak Spanish because I look Spanish.
Right. That's kind of what I was curious about. Like, when people first see you, their perceptions, because I know for me, people are like, oh, are you old enough to run? Or, oh, like, this type of stuff. And I'm like, yes. Or people asking about, oh, so many people then didn't even know about anything about any of the offices. They don't.
Who are in the current office? Who you running against? Oh, right. Who's that?
Right.
Some people have no idea.
Exactly.
No idea what I'm running for. They don't even know if they're a registered voter. I'm like, yeah, you're a registered voter. I see you on the list. But I got a lot of people thought I was Spanish, and then they want to know my ethnicity, where I'm from. Like, if they would give me the time to speak, they would go into my background.
Also, I learned something new about you. I didn't know that you had 2 kids. I also didn't know that you had an 18-year-old daughter. First of all, don't even look old enough to have an 18-year-old daughter.
Thank you. That's
So,
great.
so I'm like, wow. But and Theo, feel free to jump in at any time. But the question I had was, as far as well, maybe I'll jump to this question first. I have this book here with me. I don't know if people can see it.
Oh, I have that book too, somewhere in my house. I think I have 3 copies.
It's the Designating Petition and Opportunity to Ballot Petition Rules. Pretty thorough in the back, and I'm going through it for people who've never seen it before. In the back, it has all of the forms, sample cover sheets, sample petitions, and then it has all the rules and all of the stuff. So my question is, I know you said you had someone helping you initially, and then you switched from him or them. How much did you use this as a resource before you started? And then how much was it just stuff that you had been told that you used to petition?
So I have my treasurer, who's actually a very good friend of mine. Me and her, she does the reading, because I have other things to read. So she did a lot of the readings, and we did the petitions. I studied it. My whole family kind of studied how to do the exact petitions. And the person who actually, when we began, they actually told me, Badrun, this is the way, like we kind of did it step by step and very carefully. The only thing that was in my mind that I thought, I don't want anybody to go against my signatures. I need to get accurate signatures, and everything in the sheet's supposed to be perfect. And thanks to Theo, I kind of 11 o'clock, I would text him like, Theo, did I do this right? I did. He was really wonderful. So if I didn't get anybody, or I couldn't ask anybody, I would ask him like 20 questions sometimes in a day.
No, same. And I honestly wish because I mentioned I petitioned for president, for Andrew Yang for president earlier, as practice and also to volunteer and help that campaign. And, I wish that I had gone through this more thoroughly before petitioning, because I was just kind of going off of, things that I had heard. I had talked to some lawyers, and I had talked to other people who had petitioned, other candidates that had run, but I hadn't took my time and really gone through this. And if I would have, that would have been a much bigger help. I wish that there were more resources. Like, kind of one of my issues is there's not enough resources for candidates that are good-hearted, that don't come from a lot of money, or maybe just don't come from a political background.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And knowing how to do this is very intimidating. And I feel like there should be more resources for people to kind of get educated and know how to help candidates, get educated and know, if there was on the radio something saying, hey, for the next month, there's going to be people knocking on your door to democracy, that would have even helped pave the way to make it easier, just so people know, because people, it's a very specific type of person that even knows this exists. So go ahead, Dia.
I think no one knew. You know what? Oh, my daughter even didn't know. She's right here. She's like, she wanted to see who you were. I'm like, yeah.
Hi.
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 Yeah. So she, I don't think no one knew. A lot of people didn't know. I in certain parts that I went, that had no idea what petitioning was, what is it? They only knew the green paper. So they knew the green paper, but they didn't know about a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think also right now, I think the schools or high schools are pretty much, they need to, if this is going to go continuously for another 100 years, they need to elaborate more on the petitioning. But I'm also thinking the way the country is facing with all these facts of people knocking on door, people opening doors, and it's becoming hard. I just targeted people I kind of knew, but when I did, like when she went into the buildings with her friends, some people had like, you should not be in the building and it's not safe for you in the building. But if you go to the train stations, it's not easy. But I also face as candidates running. I didn't see any candidate in any buildings. Somehow they have their group of signatures. I don't know how they did it, but I could say I didn't sleep for at least 6-7 days. Like I was on adrenaline somehow to make sure I got to the signature. That was, yeah.
And two questions. One, you
I
didn't
have a
have.
question.
I have two questions while they're on my mind, Theo. It sounds like you might be shorting
Okay.
a little bit, but one is, yeah, two questions. One, you didn't get any endorsements from any Democratic clubs or anything that helped you petition, right?
No, because I wasn't on the ballot. Everybody's like, you're not on the ballot yet. I contact
Okay.
everyone, every community I know.
No,
First thing
same issue here, and then that obviously favors the incumbents and the other people because then they have these groups to petition for them. My second question is a twofold question. One, why did you want to run? And then without getting too much into the politics of it, one, why did you want to run? And two, you mentioned your family and how supportive you are, and that's so amazing. That honestly was inspiring to me. Theo told me about that while you were petitioning. I was like, wow, that's such an amazing resource. But how was it as the mom of the family, how supportive were they when you told them that, hey, I want to run, and that, hey, this petitioning process means you're not going to be going to the movies with your friends. You're going to be, getting signatures from me. You're not going to be sitting at home on your phone or on YouTube or whatever. You're going to be helping getting signatures. How easy was it to sell them on that? And how much were they actually, how supportive? Was there a pushback of like, I don't know, I don't want you to be public. Oh, you're going against the incumbent. That's going to be so much pressure. Da 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 da. Why do you want to do? So I want to know what that kind of conversation was like, and how supportive they were.
So that's, my family was split. I have two brothers who were absolutely against me running. I'll be very honest. They just couldn't. Oh, it's too difficult. And they were would not even hear it. So my mother, my father, I have my other families. So I have 5 brothers and sisters. So there was a split. Only 2 of them did not agree, and all the rest of them agree.
And they live here. They live here too.
Live here, yeah.
Wow.
They all live here. We're from the Lower East Side. We grew up in Lower East Side, so we were very vocal. We came here 22 years ago. They're all in the same house. Everybody lives upstairs, downstairs, but 2 of them did not agree at all. And my father was the one who actually, very strong personality. First, he was here in the 60s. My mom, they were pretty much supportive of me. And my husband has never, he's a political person everywhere in his country. Here, he's like, it's up to you if you want to run. My older daughter, sometimes she just doesn't want to be public a lot. She didn't want to be any picture. My younger one is pretty much very vocal. She wants to be a lawyer, so she's very vocal. My father told me, is like, win or lose, if you believe in your heart you could do this, I will support you all the way. And he did. He did some fundraising. He called some of his friends, my mother too, my uncle, my cousins. I actually spoke to a lot of people before I ran. And they knew that I'm going against someone who's a very strong, very politically, has a lot of funding. And I got support, and I got my community support too in ways. The 2 of them who didn't support me at first, I kind of silenced them. I didn't talk to them, but eventually they had to come around. So I do the silent treatments. I don't ask them anything. I don't ask them any questions. But then eventually they see that I'm moving forward and I'm their sisters. They're like, okay, what we can do. And they walked in. My father said something when I first went on an interview. I mean, you have to understand, my father's an immigrant. When he came in, so he worked hard in the 60s. He saw all Martin Luther King. He saw all that. It's just like they seen the hardship. They seen all that. So he saw me on First Day on television. For him, I'm a Bangladeshi Muslim woman. And it doesn't matter if I'm on Fox or CNN. It doesn't matter to him. He's like, you know what? You're at that position that I never dreamed of happening. So it's win or lose. You're being nationally recognized. And I think that shows an inspiration for everybody in our community. And that's what his thought is. And even today, he calls me. He's like, are you doing any Zoom? Are you calling people? Like, I mean, he's 83. So,
wow.
And he's bedridden. And he actually had surgery twice in the month of March in his knees.
Wow. That's
And he tells people in the hospital sometimes, he's like, my daughter's running for congresswoman. You have to be really careful. You don't need to treat me bad, treat me nice. But he's also 83. But I got that support a lot. How about you? You have family supporting you?
Yeah, I come from, I have 4 siblings, so it's 5 of us. And, my parents were politically involved and activists, and, my mom's a lawyer. But and my mom is actually the one who pushed me into politics from a young age, had me, interning for uh, Congress as well as in the Supreme Court through different people that she knew. And, when I told them it, they kind of like didn't really, I don't think they don't think I took it seriously, because it's just such a big task. It seems like such a big task. So they didn't think I took it seriously. Also, my family is extremely busy. They run, my parents run businesses, and then they also are pastors. So they have a church, and, they were extremely busy, but it's one of those things of when I put the work in and when I do what I do, eventually they'll follow. So yeah, it was interesting. Honestly, it was very lukewarm support. It was like kind of like the family support of like, okay, we support you, but not the whole like, we're gonna go in the streets and petition for you day after day. Not necessarily even because they didn't want to. It was just like the time commitment they just didn't have. Like 2 of my sisters actually live in the district, but they are, one works basically 9 to 9. She's a super professional job, super busy. The other one is in college, so just less time to do all of that. So it's tough, but hey, we still made it. So that makes it even sweeter. Theo, I know I cut you off, so go ahead.
No, you guys are. Can you hear me actually? Because I still have a mic problem, but
It's a
all I
little,
see
it's
here.
actually worse, but still go ahead and ask.
Go ahead, yeah.
No, the thing is, I wanted to thank you two, because I've been listening to the experience you guys shared about the petitioning process, going into the building, your daughter going to this building, learning from someone else, etc., etc., etc. And suddenly it made me realize how the system is rigged even at that portion, because there is no training, like Paperboy said at the beginning, and you cannot start petitioning until the first day of petitioning. So basically, if you don't know how to petition, you're already wasting 2 weeks of the petitioning window about learning the technique, about going into the building. You don't go knock on the door randomly 2 weeks before saying, we're training for petitioning. Would you mind opening the door and fake signing my petition? There is nothing like that. There is no training done by outside group. So basically, it was to me, it was a very, very learning. I want to thank you both. I mean, we've been here for an hour. I mean, uh, so I from what I hear is like, we need a guide. Basically, we would need a guide, a better guide for someone to start into the process of petitioning, because if you don't petition, you don't get on the ballot. The second note that I took is the signature and the week, and the third part is what was I saying? I forgot the third part. So the red book, actually, you mentioned the red book.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of that, I actually had two more questions I wanted to bring up before we go. One was about well, I wanted to mention that I had a chance to be on a Zoom with some of the curators at Ballotpedia, and
I did too.
It was right. It was a Zoom with candidates from all across the country, and it was post Corona. It was talking about working the time of Corona. I also got to speak with some candidates running for Congress in different states, and what was really interesting to me is the process of getting on the ballot in different states across the country. And this affects us because, the people who are in Congress in New Mexico or in Texas or in Idaho or wherever, they still have a vote in the House that affects our lives as citizens in this country and even as non-citizens. So what was very interesting to me is, for example, in the state of Maryland, I got to speak to a candidate there, and she informed me that to get on the ballot in the state of Maryland, you pay $150.
Yeah.
$150 and you're on the ballot. I mean, like, if that was here, how much sweat would that be like off of our brow if that's all you had to do?
I thought it was a little bit more, Paperboy. Someone said 800, I think. Someone there was 600.
From what I heard in Maryland, and this is in Prince George's County, and I believe a little bit of Montgomery County, it was $150. I don't read the law book. I'm just going off of what this person told me.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I saw you question. I'm like, damn, that would have been easy for us.
Right. And then I saw now in Georgia, it was about $7,000.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's the one I remember.
And then in Florida, it's over $10,000. And I'm like, wait, how is this legal? Just to get on the ballot, you have to pay $10,000. I mean, there's some people who don't even make that in a year. Let's be honest. There's a lot of people, some of the people most affected by the government, they don't even make $10,000 in a whole entire year. And if they want to represent their community, now they have to, and the people in there, you know, some of them were saying, hey, you know, well, this is how we do it in our state. You know, this is just da da da. And I'm like, man, but me as a person in New York, that feels unfair that I will never get to hear from a candidate in these Florida or whatever state, not to pick on Florida, but whatever state that doesn't have the money to reach that threshold. To me, that is it's like a catch-22, because the 150, I actually could get down with that, you know, but the 10,000, that's like, for me, that is, you know, honestly, that would stop someone like me from even having the chance to run. That you like, you know, that so much money just to get on the ballot. So I'm curious to what you all think about that, and how moving forward, if there was a way, kind of, what is, in a perfect world, what would you all see is the petitioning process or the process to get on the ballot?
That's a hard question, because you know why? I am not a fan of this petitioning because of the unsafety related to it. Whoever you're hiring, it's an unsafety going into the buildings nowadays, because I felt like people are not comfortable going into the buildings. And then 2 or 3 people, you never know what happens. And financially, if that's something we could do, we have to make that averagely, I think, affordable. Like 10,000 is not affordable for people. Like, and especially in New York, with the campaign fundraising is already difficult. If you don't have the backbone, if you don't have the Democrat Party, if you don't have any of these parties supporting you, you're raising your own money. So if we do financially, that'd be a very tough thing. I think it would be like, what is affordable? So that becomes a question depending on what area are you and what country are you in. And I don't think money should be the way of getting on the ballot. I think there has to be a better way, because then you're purchasing your way in. I mean, right. I'm not saying anything. I don't want to disgrace any of the other states, how they do it. I don't want to say anything to that point, but I just think in New York, I have an issue that if you live in another city, you could run in another district. I have an issue with that. I think person who lives in the district should be the one running, because they know their district better. But now, according to you could live anywhere else and run anywhere you want. I have an issue with that also. So petition has to change. We have to find a better way, or email people, calling people. It has to be a different way, because nowadays the country is not in that situation. And I feel when I send someone out, if it's a volunteer, even if it's a staff, they're my people going out.
So that will be a discussion for a later time, because I think to answer Paperboy, you start. If you ask me, I like the petitioning simply because it connects with the people, but there is an unfair advantage to the elected official, the incumbent, who he's usually the staff will volunteer for that incumbent to get on the ballot. So there is already a relationship that is a little bit a quid pro quo relationship that shouldn't exist. So for example, I would propose that staffer from incumbent cannot volunteer on anybody's campaign for a year after they left the incumbent or the elected official, because what they do, they'll say, oh, you work for this incumbent and you will work for me. You know, we don't want any of that. So no staffer can participate in the election process. And the second part is the volunteer, the witness on the petition cannot be a pay witness. So basically you need to go find volunteer. And I will bet you that even incumbents who do not perform in this district will have problem getting on the ballot because they have the money to pay, they have the money to pay for their volunteer. Well, they're not volunteer, they pay staff basically. So suddenly those people will start changing the rule to lower the number of signatures to figure out, because I'm sure there is a lot of people who would never make it on the ballot and they're incumbent.
So
That's
basically what you're saying, Theo, is basically in New York, it's already $10,000 to get on the ballot because you have to pay your volunteer. And I know candidates for other offices in New York, not even Congress, who paid $10,000, $15,000 to staff to do that, to get on the ballot. And it's kind of, I guess in a nutshell, it's kind of the same thing. You can get around it with the footwork, but still here, Badrun was able to use her family. I was able to use some volunteers and the God, but right, you basically have to still have that money to be able to pay people to do it. So the process isn't perfect,
but I think also the Democratic clubs, so which every club, if they support you, they have their internal people who knows the signatures how to get, because I did not meet anybody and I was out day and night. Like I would start at 4, I would come in at 9:30. Like the last door I would knock is 9:30. After 9:30, I couldn't knock anymore. But after 9:30, the weekends I was up to like about 10, 11 o'clock because I knew the people who I could go to. But I went to buildings after buildings and nobody was there. So they have their, as you said, you need a lot of money to get the petitions to work. And I actually saved that portion. I had very few people who I paid.
You know what? That actually reminded me of the part that that hurt me with Corona. Was a big place where I have a lot of connection is in the clubs and in the bars and with the DJs and the promoters, because this is my community of people I know. And once Corona hit and parties started getting shut down, clubs started getting shut down, all these things, and for me, it was, I know a lot of, basically the most Ubered to place in New York is a club in my district. And I'm friendly with the owner there. I'm friendly with a lot of the staff. I've performed there before. They have thousands of people that go there over the weekend. Part of my plan was to show up, get signatures, meet people, and it was like that was just thrown out the window, which made it that much harder to game the system. Because again, for us going door to door, it was so hard getting enough signatures in an hour that really made it worth our time. You know what I mean?
Did you try the churches?
The churches, the issue with the churches was the timing of it, like actually getting there at a time. So we didn't actually have a good plan to connect with the churches. For me, the clubs and the bars were kind of our, not to be blasphemous, but our churches, because that's where I knew a bunch of people that would be there. And actually during petitioning for Yang, that's how I was able to get a lot of my signatures. I would go to a party and I was able to get 40 signatures real quick in an hour. Some people were registered, some people weren't, but I was able to get the word out and they were like, oh, my friend, and I go up to a table and then 6 people all sign right there. And that was able to help us get momentum, so. Oh, well, but
I did the Musk. That really helped me. Friday on time, 12:30, sat there for 4 hours. And got 200, 300, 400 signatures at the same time. That was it. I did the earlier. I did it to the churches on Sunday. I would wait outside because they can't take it inside. Then it's So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of the mandirs. The Hindu mandirs.
Okay.
They have it like in the evening. I will sit there in the evening. So I did every possible way to get the signatures. If I had another 15 days. Which if I would have made it more than I actually got. Right. But and my signatures were actually accurate. That was I was trying to guarantee. Like if signatures are good, people can't challenge much of the signatures.
Right.
But
Right.
as I said, Theo, it was
The
a
challenge will be
thing.
for another show, I guess. We can do a whole show on challenging. Well, thank you, Badrun. Thank you, well, Paperboy, you with me. So,
Well, I'll take your thank you too. So
Thank
thank you.
you.
but no, I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I know the road ahead. Now you passed the first hurdle. Now the road ahead will be interesting, and it will be a lot of well, I guess you won't be shaking a lot of hand, I guess, because of Corona. But I wish you a lot of luck. And well, thank you for participating. I forgot to say that.
Oh no, it was great. We get to know, like we could write books on it. I could write books on it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we need because nobody's writing anything about it. Nobody knows anything, and I know it's a very boring subject. It's very technical. You go down into Doug, one of who's there, is going crazy with me because we're getting into something so technical about one signature over the line and this and that. And the reason we're doing that is to keep a record for future generation to say, hey, we have now something that explain it. Don't be afraid of doing it. You were not the first one, you're not the last one, but at least we're leaving you a record. Badrun and Paperboy left your record of what he went through for them because nobody do it. And like you said earlier, the TV doesn't even mention it. Hey, this month there people be knocking on your door. And I think they should be doing that. The TV, Fox 5,
The radio.
611 and all those channels should be putting it during the 6-week petitioning. Guys, this is democracy. Open your door.
I mean, honestly,
but,
I would have paid $100 to hear some of the stuff that Badrun is saying about petitioning before a year ago. You know what I mean? A year ago, if I would have, because that would have helped to ease my mind and to know, okay, this is how the process goes. This is what this person used. This is what Paperboy used. This is what, if I would have had that as a resource, I felt like that would have made me so much better at it because I get to see, okay, the mistakes that were made and learn from them. And then the successes that were had and learn from them as well. Because like you mentioned, Theo, there's no time to waste. Once the clock is ticking, you got to go. And each day you're going behind, each hour, and you feel it when you're petitioning. You feel that, man, like, I wasted a day.
If I knew 2 weeks ago what I knew after 4 days of petitioning, if I knew that 2 weeks ago, the first week I would have got 1,000 signatures if I would have known. And absolutely, it was like some nights I didn't sleep till 4 o'clock in the morning, and I work full time. So
wow.
I work full time. So
that's a whole other thing that I wanted to even, because for me, I work from home. I'm an artist, so I have a flexible schedule. I'm able to, but that was a whole other thing that I wanted to mention. Like for someone who works full time, it's almost impossible. It's an impossible feat to work full time, have obligations for your job, your livelihood, and then also trying to do this to get just on the ballot to apply for this other job. It's like, whoo.
that's another discussion.
That's another discussion. Wow.
We'll do it after the election. We'll do the series will continue and we'll go and we'll get more people who had different experience and we'll go through it and figure out, or maybe get all together and do something together, talk about it, because there is a lot of things we need to change. Whether what happened on primary day.
Oh.
So thank you very much. I know it's we went past the hour. Thank you, Badrun, for being so patient. And well, thank you for anyone who will watch this today or in 10 years. This is how you petition and the hurdle you go through.
Thank you for having me, Theo, and thank you, Paperboy. It's great to share their experience. I think me and you have the same experience in so many levels. When you're a new candidate, you face a lot of things.
Yes.
And we have more to go for 2 more months. Is it 8 weeks? I think, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's funny to say, but it's only beginning. In a lot of ways, it's only beginning, especially with coronavirus. I'm glad that we're all still here, that we're all healthy, that your family is healthy, and everyone who volunteered with you is healthy as well.
Yeah,
So,
they all, everyone, thank God, thank Allah, we're all safe. And just my mother-in-law is very sick. She actually is admitted in the hospital. So we're just hoping she comes out well. Yeah. I did lose a lot of people. We lost almost 200 people in my community. I lost my aunt about 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So that was thing. But you know what? Everybody's safe. And I wish everybody the best. Stay home. And it's going to be a tough road ahead.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Paperboy